Janine from Sigma, we are here with Sharon Xuereb, Senior Associate at Camilleri Preziosi. How are you, Sharon?
Fine, thank you. Very well, thanks.
Let's dive right in.
Yes.
So, what do you see as the most pressing legal risks currently in iGaming, especially to iGaming operators, and how they should be addressing it in today's digital environment?
Okay, so this is a loaded question. I mean, the digital legal landscape right now
It's very vast.
We are speaking. It's not only vast, but it's changing. There are a lot of changes that we need to catch up with. And for the technology lawyer, it's very exciting right now. So we're seeing all these, new, let's say, laws being rolled out. The usual suspect, the EU AI Act, the GDPR, which was there, but we're seeing a bit of a different iteration of it. We're also seeing laws in the cybersecurity space that are also giving us new certification systems, etc. So there is a lot right now that is happening. It's very exciting for the tech lawyer, but perhaps not so exciting for the business that needs to catch up with all that compliance. So the laws were there to protect players, to protect the technology layer, and we are not, reinventing the wheel when it comes to gaming laws, really, apart from the harmonization issues that there are within that sector. But in the digital space, then you get, for instance, if transparency was already regulated for players, for games, for information that ought to be disclosed, for player protection, responsible gaming, all of that is there, but now it needs to be updated
and elevated
according to what the new laws are telling us. And let's face it, who is not implementing artificial intelligence now? Who is not jumping on that advantage?
Definitely.
So let's bring ourselves up to speed. But awareness is already a really good starting point. Let's bring ourselves up to speed with these new laws so that we fine-tune what is there in accordance with this digital advancement now.
Amazing. And intellectual property is obviously a very increasing trend, and it's something that people are valuing a lot within iGaming companies and iGaming brands. How can operators best protect their innovations, their technologies, their content in such a competitive market nowadays?
Okay, so intellectual property is the cornerstone for gaming companies. It is that intangible property that they would need to continue protecting, because I am very sure that they have already had their portfolio of protections in order and set. So it requires ongoing monitoring, though, and it requires a multi-layered strategic approach when it comes to protecting, for instance, the software, the technology behind everything. There are copyrights that would, leverage your creativity and make sure that that is protected. There are trademarks that you would need to continue not just registering, but monitor enforcement issues so that you would see that third parties are not impinging on your rights, protecting your brand aggressively, because that is ultimately, your brand, your stamp. And also the softer kind of intellectual property rights, but the ones that make a very huge mark also in the gaming sector. Domain names. I mean,
definitely.
Gaming companies thrive in registering quite a few domain names there.
And but very interesting domain names.
And some very interesting ones too. And also the softer kind of, again, IP, for instance, know-how now, or trade secrets. Things that we think less of as intellectual property, but
are very
constitute a very important part of your internal gold, internal property that you would need to secure and safeguard.
Amazing. And with growing scrutiny right now on data protection, cybersecurity, you mentioned GDPR as well before, what practical steps should iGaming companies take to obviously comply with GDPR and also safeguard their players?
Yeah. So GDPR is not a static law. Just because it was rendered effective in 2018 and I would expect, gaming companies and compliance departments internally to be up to speed with the GDPR, but there is ongoing monitoring, and again, it's an area that would need to be updated constantly. So,
Definitely.
for instance, the registers, the processing activities, identifying new purposes of processing. AI is one of them, where the very foundation of this new technology is the processing of mass data, whether it is for a training kind or whether it is to process it for production or deployment purposes. So again, we need to restructure internally the laws and the compliance mechanisms that we've been applying vis-a-vis data protection to bring ourselves up to speed also with this digital advancement now. So things such as audits, from an internal perspective, revision of privacy policy, making sure transparency is still applicable.
Definitely.
With, for instance, things like the black box effect that we have with AI. Can you explain your systems to your users? Or to the national authorities, quite frankly, that are monitoring enforcement now. And not just that, from a practical perspective, perhaps we need to also think about insurance coverage. Is the insurance coverage protecting you from a liability perspective? That is something that perhaps...
There are a lot of things to look into, and a lot of different layers as well that people actually starting to constantly update, constantly be aware of, and further education, further understanding. But you also have a background in online gaming regulation and EU case law. So how do you think the regulatory landscape for iGaming in Europe is likely to evolve in the next couple of years? And is there anything that maybe operators should look out for next?
Yeah, so I practice within this area, but I can't help, not to bring forward, the effects that AI is going to bring with it.
Definitely.
I mean, this is the talk of town, and we can't really...
Even at Sigma right now, I mean, most of the talks are surrounding AI, so it's a very relevant topic.
Exactly, yeah, that's the next panel discussion I need to hop on to. So we're going to see a lot of, sort of these new mechanisms, as I've said before, like transparency, that is going to play a very big role with algorithms, explainability. But the industry, although it is driven by, capitalization and obviously profits, I think now is the time to have the right conversation, because we're at the cornerstone of whether this technology is going to be the survivor or the savior of the industry, to use it in ethical ways, etc., or whether it's going to go the complete opposite way, to give us sort of a Black Mirror, dystopian effect that the regulator, at least within the EU, is trying to contain with the legislation. So we come full circle back to what we said earlier on. Legislation that is changing and is constantly evolving and is being enacted at the moment to contain these effects. But I think the discussion is really up to us also to direct it in an ethical, transparent, trustworthy direction.
Amazing. And the conversation will keep on happening, and a lot more conversations still yet to be had.
And we're so lucky to be able to participate in this conversation.
Very exciting times in the world at the moment, especially in the iGaming industry.
It is quite so.
Thank you so much, Sharon. This has been Sharon Xuereb at Sigma Media Lounge.